And we're live.
And we are. Okay. Let me pinch myself. Yeah. Yeah.
And as everybody does arrive, invite a friend that you normally wouldn't invite.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. So as they're coming in, so that they hear this, dam, da, da, dam, dam, dum, dum, something like that. Okay, and share this out. Yeah. I got some great healing. I don't know if you hear the music, but it's actually a frequency of 639 that's just pumping out right now. And sort of needed it today. You know why? You know, sometimes we all get this heavy heart action, right? You know, something just sets us off. Okay, a button gets pushed. And around the world, I think there's more than buttons getting pushed. I think they're pushing the whole shovel and rake and dump truck at the same time because, ay, Adrian. I mean, really.
Well, the more that you center yourself, the more that you allow the world's energy that is being transmuted and being thrown around at this point to be part of your existence.
Yeah.
And it being part of your existence, you then need to extend that it's not all you. It is a lot of worldly energy in which you're trapping or you're opened yourself up to actually transmute that. The deciphering of that is difficult. If you're, because everybody's judgment now is verbal.
Oh my God. It's horrible.
If you don't have the strength, you don't have the strength in what you are, then you're going to have them moments. Yesterday with that gentleman, though, in your defense, that was entrapment. He knew that it was completely out of the etiquette of what you present and put it in there. Yeah. Now, was he there for relevance in the experience of learning, in the capacity of what we would hope that it would be, or was it somebody sent to do that, to disturb the vibration? Because you're pushing against it.
You're very right, Adrian. I mean, more and more, as we're talking about, you know, this frequency of love and higher love vibrations and, you know, peace and joy and harmony, there's always going to be a troll, I guess we can call it, or, you know, just some person that just wants to throw something else into the picture. Okay. And, you know, in the essence of all of that last night, and then there was a couple of triggers on my part. Okay. And, you know, I was really, I think you could see in the way that I was holding my ground. I was very, very firm and very standing strong to what I believe in. And I still stand strong on that. But to bring it out into, you know, the group is called Love Virus. You know, I think people around the world are starting to know, you know, what we speak about. You know, we might speak in a bunch of different directions, but we're really coming back to the core that this, you know, the healing begins with self, the love of self, the respect of self, you know, rather than the self-sabotage and getting into all this mind fuckery. Okay. And to throw something that right off the bat is an aggressive. There's no other way to say that. To me, that was an aggressive, boom, here it is. Okay.
Yeah.
And I came back on that because I will stand strong. Okay, and for those of you that are just tuning in, just to give you a little background, I dislike guns, and I have reason to dislike guns. And I'm not going to talk about that because if you want to know, you can contact me, and I'll give you more explanation onto it because it's irrelevant as to where it is right now. It's yesterday. But the point is that, you know, those that feel that they have this weapon in their hands and this absolute control, because, you know, I'm not afraid of a gun. And I don't think many people are. I've been taught how to use one. My grandfather taught me how to use one and respect it. He said, respect the tool, because if you don't respect the tool, it's not going to respect you. And that goes for anything. Guns, hammers, saws. You know, how many times have you hit your thumb? Okay, because you haven't respected the hammer. You haven't been, attentive to the potential of what it can do. And this is, when it comes into, look, when it comes into the chaos of the world and the countries and all of the, the bullets and the tanks and the militaries and things like that, and all the trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars that is spent. And then we hear the other side that, it's a hungry world. There's not enough food. There's improper medications. There's all of the, all the known garbage. And yet we can spend money to kill people.
Yeah.
And that money goes right to the very core of the reason why we're in a lot of a chaotic structure, because of the darkness, because of these families, because of the elitisms, because of all of the things. If you want to run down the rabbit holes and find out more about it, just make sure you got your armor on. Okay, because the further you go down them, the darker it gets. Okay, and this is the extent of it. Like, my God,
the rabbit holes are just getting more bored out and more influenced with non-generic stories that allow taglines to exist. So all of that will happen. Like the biggest fungus or fungi is the biggest organism on the planet in regards to what's underneath. All of those things are there. It's how we react in who we are in the action of now. And what I brought that up for was the simple reason, because you're pushing against the grain of existence.
Of course.
And you're creating a new grain of structure to the new fabric of what we will all walk amongst.
Yeah.
That there is something that is very, very, like, I try to use the most innocent word, but for the darkness, it's very, very scared of. They're intimidated by it.
Of course they're intimidated by it.
Intimidated by it. So to go through the action like you did, and good evening, Patricia, and good evening, Melissa.
Hey, everybody, nice to see you. Tag a good friend. Tag people that maybe you have never brought in to listen to us.
Chat.
Okay.
Chat.
And we'll talk up a good storm tonight, I think. A good storm, not a bad storm. And for all the ones...
the truth needs to be heard, and it needs to echo. And that's what we do, because it's a consistency. It's always moving forward. We talk about what happened, and that happened as a result of you standing in the truth so consistently for it to be a beacon for those to see, either good or bad. And they influence wherever they feel that they can. And that's the situation that we're in. And we will be in that for a while, for a long while, whilst people are diffusing from that current head space to find heart space. Because they're contradicting themselves every day with their actions. And it's confusing them even more and more and more. And I'm speaking about those that are woke, those that have crossed over and seen a different storyline. They're still looking at something that is not of their design. It's influenced by the story within itself, disrupting the very vibration. This is a centering of the truest vibration of you. Because many analogies, many indigenous stories all talk about walking through a doorway, walking into a new, and shunning the old, forgetting the old in its entirety. But the forgetting needs to complete with the forgiveness and all of those elements. And it's the most difficult thing now to consistently not tell a person, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Because not only are you damaging my ears, but you're damaging your whole well-being by consistently talking about a story that is not of your construction. Stop reading a book and start writing the novel. Because that's what we're not doing. And that's frustrating. That is really frustrating, because I see myself as a complete idiot. As a complete idiot. In the pre-former, you know this, Gary. I didn't like the place, knew it wasn't of where I was supposed to be, and then this came along, and seeing what I was a complete idiot in regards to the disrespect I showed for all of those elements that we find now so pure, enriching, and unique to each individual.
Yeah.
Because we find the beauty with what we have around us. And given that I was all of that ignorant, I thought so many people are alert and they'll just cross over. They'll just stop the interruption and the abrupt misbehavior upon self to control the beauty in which they think and they know that they've always felt. And that's not happening 18 months into it.
Yeah, even before 18 months into this bullshit that's going on, Adrian, to be honest with you, it was already a whole packet of stuff going on. Okay, it just this last 18 months has been a topper put on top of it, because everything prior to that has been setting us up for exactly the demise of our strengths by weakening us down and then getting us into a point where absolute fear is put forward. Look what it does. You know, one of the sayings that Kissinger had said was that control the foods, control the people, control the resources, control the world. But it's a lot more broader than that. Okay, when we look at the background stories, you know, the changing of the musical recording frequencies, all of that has been leading up to where we are, and even before that. We can go to the ancient timelines. Okay, this whole head of this is bringing us into what have we learned? What have we truly learned, and what are we about to take from what we've learned of all of the errors that we've made throughout humanity, and then step up to the game to what we were truly meant to be? We were created as creators. We were created as a loving species to create life. And then it got sidetracked. Okay, everything else around us. Look at the birds around the. I mean, one of the beautiful parts about your part of the world is when I hear those birds going off and the animals and all the parrots and everything else. The ones that you see as a commonplace there, we see as the exotic. You know, I had an Eleanor cockatoo for a number of years. Loved the thing. Okay, but
we don't see the macaws here. We don't see the macaw parrot. Yeah, that's that's South America. You guys have it through there. Maybe not in Canada because it's cold.
There's no parrots anywhere in North America.
Yeah, but not native. I'm saying like we for the amount of cockies what we have in Australia, and it's something that I want to attend. And I haven't. The last time I was up that way, I was still 6 hours away from where it was. Is the budgies? There is like millions and millions and millions of native wild budgies.
Oh, really?
That flock in synchronization, Gary. And it's like, you know how you see the balls of fish, and they're in that water freely. The birds are in the exact same orientation, like you get a flock of pigeons. But there is millions.
Swallows. We get swallows doing swarms like this, and sometimes it's unbelievable to see this. I mean, the synchronicity, the synchronicity of those.
Exactly, the balance of one.
Yeah, unbelievable.
One movement creating a whole flock.
Yeah,
to allow it to go in that space where it needs to get to. It's because of one consistency.
And here's the beauty.
That's it.
The beauty of what it's showing us is the freedom. Freedom to live and freedom to be alive. In all simplicity. It flows with all life. They flow with the energy of the earth, the winds. You know, it's an entire ecosystem that has been showing us, trying to show us since the very dawn of time, how to live with it, how to appreciate it, how to see the beauty and the simplicity of you know, somebody says, well, it's a flock of birds. Have you watched them? Okay, and then watch how your heart slows down and your mind slows down, because now you're in appreciation and gratitude of something that's more powerful than you. You and me as humans, we can't fly. We know that. We keep trying, but we get up in big.
Not yet. As we redesign our belief systems, then the limitations that were formerly upon us no longer exist.
Yeah.
And there'll be an etiquette to being able to accomplish that. It'll be a mastering of self for you to be available to do so. This is where we need to be able to imagine. Because imagine isn't too far away from manifest when you synchronize your imagination with the truth of where you want to be.
True.
And as you do that, you see the pathway of least resistance for you to walk through. So you're not being abruptly shifted from the narrative or the vibration in which you first found yourself. The world is given a vibration that runs consistently to the nature of law. We are nowhere near that in the design of where we find ourselves within the structure of man. When we separate ourselves from the departure or the debacle of man, as a consistency of it being disempowering, and put ourselves into that vibration where innocence is just natural occurrence, then you can appreciate what you are in every footstep you take. Right through to every breath and every spoken word. Because the concerns of the lesser man are not that of mine. And it's not that they're lesser, it's just that they're majority of, to be an actual fact. They're not my concern. They never were my concern. I never wrote any of them to be real. Like none of us did, we all followed. Not the first civilization that has fallen. It's just another passing in time to calibrate the consistency of what our journey is meant to be. And that is now to see the pain, the anger, the fear in which we've all lived with through the intimidation of a narrative, to completely dilute, extinguish, negate that in its existence, and walk free from. Therefore, dropping all of the labels that are attached, be it cancer, be it diabetes, be it famine, be it all of those non-genuine elements that need to survive. This is the imagination through manifestation when synchronicity is at one, because there's no confusion. It is a constant moving travel. Vibration doesn't stop until it is felt. And that's when it's changed. It's changed into the mood of the person that's actually received that vibration.
Well,
and the reflection.
Here's a perfect example of something. Let's see if you can follow me a little bit with this. And last night, I did this beautiful, I call it a ceremony, call it a workshop, call it a gathering of souls. And a mother that showed up with her children, young boy and young girl. They've never done anything like this. But when she asked them, they said, okay, we'll join you. They had no idea what to expect. And I'm playing music like this to a generation that never heard it before. Okay, the healing frequencies. And I'm talking about flowers and the essences and the realness and the power of the heart and the healing factors. Long story short, left from that, came home, did that live, got triggered. But I just saw a message, as I posted here about 30 minutes ago, from one of the woman that was there with her 2 children. And you know what? It almost made me cry. In fact, it did make me tear up. Because the gratitude was that not only did she shift from holding on to the traumas, her children shifted. And she saw the same results going on today. And the gratitude. This is what's needed to be done. This is what's needed to be shown, is that we can come together in this unification and share in that essence of healing, to heal all of this behind us and to open up our heart to see the spectrum of life before us. And now, as you say, design the new story, create the new story, the new narrative, the new earth, not a new world order, not a new age movement, not any of the lingo that they're addressing it with and the mind fuckery that they're trying to put it on. It's about being where we're supposed to be. Okay? In the essence of creation.
We're resetting the scales. It's resetting the scales to justice and to truth. All the rest will fall down because it will not hold any valid state as it's seen for what it has done. That takes time, but everybody's able to accomplish that in their own personal space. People are very fearful. Yeah, people are very fearful to question self, Gary.
Oh my
People
God.
are very hesitant to ask the right questions of self without it meandering because they're looking to label themselves as something.
You know, let's sort of step off the side. Well, it's going to come in right back to this. But one of the things that I found last night with this ceremony is that there was only 2 males that were there, the young one and an elderly gent. And the rest of it was all the females. And this brought up an attention to me, okay? And to the point where, you know, I'm asked time and time again is that, you know, what is this thing called the divine masculine and the sacred masculine? And, you know, what is it about, you know, emotions and vulnerabilities? And this is where men have become damaged. We are so damaged, the majority of us, is that we don't want to go in there, okay? We don't want to go into, you know, the emotions, the vulnerabilities, the sensitivities. But if we do, look at how it empowers us.
They're all excuses, dude. They're all excuses.
Of course it's an excuse.
We're that far in the game that they're discrediting what truth is because they're scared of facing it because they have either not repented in their life and been heinous or just been completely ignorant, so didn't care where the fuck they were. And now they're being asked to. That's intimidating. That's intimidating. They don't know. They've never asked the question of self. Do I kill myself? Do I live? What have I got to live for? What is there for me that I am able to repair from? What is around me or who is around me that is able to help? We've gone through this. Mm-hmm. There is millions and billions that have it. They're the ones now that are facing this, if it's their timing. The rest of the broken society already understands that they were nothing within the cogs of the system. So they appreciate the inept behavior of that whole system, and it's easy to walk away as they show themselves even uglier than what they were first seen by each person. Each person's reflection of how that story is uniquely different. Uniquely different.
I like the comment that what Patricia just put up here. John Bradshaw's. I know of his works, and yeah, you want to get into your inner child if you've got the guts to do it, because it's not something that's easy. It's not something to eat. It's not easy to shed our shadows and that's holding us back. Okay,
but I'm the complete opposite. I believe that if it didn't kill you then, it is able to be revisited without any hesitation because it won't be anywhere near as devastating because you now know the actions of what took place.
Of course. The suicide attempt and a near death, 2 near deaths and a multitude of others. That's where it's brought to me.
Exactly.
And what I'm saying is that when it's not easy. Those of us that have done the work, those of us done the realizations, those of us that have seen some of the darkness of the brokenness, okay, and have risen from this, we know that it's not going to be an easy route, but it's not going to be that hard of a route either if you surrender to it. If you don't surrender to it, it's going to be a bitch of a road.
Okay? Of course. The more you fight it, the uglier it is. The more you fight it, the uglier it is. The more intimidating it gets. It's not hard. It's lonely. Yeah, it is lonely because you have no ability to talk at a personal level about your story and anybody understanding it because you haven't categorized it, you haven't clarified it, you haven't done the necessary things to speak about it openly. Not you, the majority.
Right.
And they get lost in the translation of what stories attribute to self-help and what they have to be seeing and what they have to be doing to themselves and what they have to be going through. It can all be done with one action. It can be done with breathing, and that's it. Nothing else. And you ask before you arrive at that space where you start to breathe, I want to go and heal. And you tell yourself, because the intuitive self will put it in front of you so you are able to navigate through it without the least form of pain. Because it has already felt it. It doesn't want to replay it. It wants to nurture you through it. That's the openness of going from the head and the voice. First step of recognizing that there's two voices within you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you're a Gemini, it's a whole army.
Well, if you're an Aries, it's like, well, hurry the fuck up. Like, hurry the fuck up, man.
You get Gemini and Aries together. It's the best of both worlds. Okay, but it can also be that because of two air signs, right? You know, it's like, ooh, okay, here we go, but it's all good.
Because it's the place in where we find ourselves, and again, it goes to mastering. It goes to mastering of self. Yeah, it's going to knowing. Think of everybody. Take a moment to think of themselves as a chapter within an encyclopedia range. Okay, and it's the story of Gary. It's the story of Adrian. It's the story of Katrina. It's the story of Carol, everybody else, yeah? But it's your unique version of you, an encyclopedia of your whole experience. Everything that you have ever heard, everything that you have ever eavesdropped is there, right? Mm-hmm. That's your vortex. That is everything that you have traveled, every vibration in which you have held. Throw the book away and allow all of that novel, that encyclopedia, to be around you freely with no restriction, because you have said it, you have felt it, so you are responsible for it. And if that comes abruptly back to repair or repent against, then it is for you to change and shift in that vibration that will nurture you through it. The happy moments that you are able to calibrate is your easiest outcome of it not being a rocky road. If you're able to pinpoint those emotions as the abruptness comes to you in the vortex in which you created, you are then able to transmute it. It's nowhere near as devastating. It's nowhere near as ugly, because you have committed forgiveness to what you created, because we were all turds at one point in time. We've all been a turd.
We've all pushed the buttons. I mean, let's face it. Whether we did it with our parents or whether we did it with something on the outside, we tested the grounds. Okay, correct. We've all had the ability somewhere along the line that we did something or said something, and it intentionally or unintentionally hurt somebody. Okay, I don't think anybody can say they haven't, really, unless you've been kept in a cage all your life, and even then, you might have bit somebody's finger. Okay, it's a possibility. But this whole essence of growth and inner enlightenment and inner empowerment is, when you come into this, what are some of the questions that you get that you're faced from your audiences? Is there anything that you can think of the mind that's like they're questioning you, like about inner growth, or they're questioning you about inner life?
I was reading this one by Patricia, saying that when you go deep into that whole finding itself, this is what I'm taking it as, that it is painful, that it is some painful shit. Yeah, it's painful. It doesn't have to be, though, because if the practice of you is acknowledging its existence and it being there to acknowledge for the healing, it's only an emotion that can actually be in loving respect of it happening, however devastating it may be. Because from that moment where it was to where you are now, they're the certain increments that are necessary. Because you have to ask yourself the question, why am I going through this now? Okay? Why me personally? Not the rest of the world. Why me personally? Because have I been all the way through the whole measure of evolution within one specimen, within one soul? Is it my turn to go over into the next as this one closes off? Is that why there is a limited number that are talking to this level? Have they journeyed through everything that's required to accomplish that space of transition? That's the reality of what this is. This is why everyone's uniquely finding a story that will allow them to put love as the primary function. What's this say? I think we truly live in a world where the personal connections have been replaced by technology, and whatever personal connections people get, it was typically at the workplace, at least the development world. So I think a lot of people want it all to collapse subconsciously because they want to return back to the time where community and personal connection were normal, not TikTok and Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Mary, that's exactly correct. That's
Mary,
been part of that story.
Mary, you couldn't have said that any better than that, because, you know, in my experience of life, okay, at my age, I was at the brink or at the start where technology began, and slowly started to see what technology was doing. The more that we were advancing in the, in technology, the internet, and then the search engines, and, the ease of access of information, a majority of the information was also misinformation. So there was a whole era of things that were shifting. I watched a lady put a vinyl sign on the window doing lettering. And I remember, I've done so many things in life, it's ridiculous. I was a sign painter at one time. I used to take a brush, okay, and hand paint lettering and pinstripe on motorcycles and cars and real estate signs and all that. Hand paint, artistry, dexterity, fluidity, being able to use my hands, okay? And then further on, I ended up getting into the technology side of the world, at the brink of it, the development, and seeing where it was going. And right up until 9/11, I was deeply, deeply involved in development in many levels in both the internet and securities, working with the financial systems and so on. And I saw fighting every day my morals because of what I was doing and what I knew it was doing to people on the other side of it. Okay? The gamers, where that's all that exists. To get into the game and the whole world doesn't exist anymore. Just what your gaming society is. And you've become so locked into this, you don't know how to have a conversation with somebody that's on the outside of your door. In fact, you can't even look at them. In fact, you're looking for your VR goggles or you're looking for your thumb pads to try and speak. Okay, and the majority, what I've even seen in younger generations, which is an atrocity, Adrian, is that the actual verbose is short texted. I gotta say, like, what did you just say?
Yeah.
There's some words that missed here.
Yeah. Like, ATM, WBU,
so
like WTF.
Like, what the fuck is that, man?
Yeah,
it's like, I'm talking to a computer in a human vessel.
But this is what this thing is, right? This is why it's so damn funny. And this is why it's so damn ignorant of some people. But you can't be ignorant, and forgive me, right? What this is that generation are at the fact, without knowing, that they are all energy. The element that is physical, the emotion that is physical, right, is part of their existence, but not to the dimensions of or the dynamics of what it was formerly in populations of people. especially within Western culture. Okay. And the expense of living that lifestyle is completely, hello, I think that might be Amanda, or it might be Trisha.
I'm not.
Anyway, hello, whoever that Facebook user is. But that energy, that light energy, that energy in which we are, when we take the physical element out, that appreciation of the total just function of I am, allows you to understand the schematics a little bit about the electronical revolution in which we've gone through, and how you can actually coexist in that same electrical function in your own personal space by extending that higher vibration of what you know is consistent, to completely disregard the physical element for a moment and allow that wiring, that connection of wiring, that be that broadband that is of intellect, be in front of you, be right at your very space to use. Yeah. And this is what's funny, because we don't think to the simplicity of that. We think that the devices are the construction of everything that we always ever wanted. All we needed to do was put something in our hand that would show us what we needed. And there, everything's done. The whole job's done.
See,
lost everything, gained minimal.
You know, talking about this, I mean, just let me go back to this little excerpt of, watching this lady on the, putting vinyl signing on the window, and me going back to the time that I used to be able to use my hands. Okay. And this is the second time she had to do that, because the first time, the perception of cutting the lettering and putting on the window was wrong. So she came back with a shadow technique. And as a sign maker myself, I would have done this by hand. Okay. It's like, okay, I know what needs to be done, because my visual perspective is there. My broader visual range. And in today's world, our broader visual range is right in front of us by about this.
Yeah, okay? Exactly.
Nothing other than what I can see within that space, to a point where I see this.
Yeah, we're like a racehorse running its first race.
Yeah. So you know what? Shut it all down tomorrow morning and watch what happens.
Yeah.
The world would collapse. It would be chaos.
Yeah, of course.
And this is something that, for a very long time, okay, certain groups, I won't name any, but I know, okay, is one of the goals, one of the contemplations was to put a plug in it, to shut it down, because it would crash everything. We've become so reliant on this connection that if it was to drop, there would be people who would probably jump off their roofs because they couldn't connect to their world of, virtual friends, so to speak.
Yeah. In fact, the whole phone sex industry would go down. So then you've got a lot of pot-bellied 50-year-old men that are sitting there that thinking.
There's the other side of it too. Come on, it's like
they're the ones talking on the phone to the customers as the sex talkers. Yeah, if you were to speak to them legitimately without the voice box or the electrical voice box that they've got, it'd be, "G'day, what's going on?" But it's sounding like, "G'day, how are you? Nice time you're having tonight." So everything would fall on its ass, Gary. Everything would fall on its ass. Children wouldn't know what the hell was going on. That genre where they follow and follow and follow and follow and follow and follow and follow. They would not have a clue what would happen. They would be running around like blue asses, doing things more heinous than what they're doing to themselves now. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it magnificent? Isn't it magnificent that all of these people refuse to take the opportunity, which is so free to them?
Yeah, I gotta laugh at it sometimes, Adrian, because if I don't, I'm gonna. What's the other option? I'm gonna cry about it, because you know what? It's sad to see that. It truly is.
I'm not a narcissist, right? But if they're if they're refusing to take the same opportunity which you have taken, which I have taken, and so many others have chosen to take, and it's to the dark side, then my emotion is not benefiting that space. That's not ignorant. That's not ignorant. They're freely making the choice to do what they need to do, that without it being researched or anything like that. And even the research, you just have to sit and feel. Listen to the story.
I'm going to talk about something, but I'm not going to open up the rabbit hole on it because there's a lot of controversy around it. I will tell you from my perspective what pulled me out of this technical world for a very, very, very long time. In fact, my presence on the internet right now is about 2 years old. Before that, nothing. You wouldn't have found a LinkedIn. You wouldn't have found a social media profile. You wouldn't have found anything other than my name on the existence of some corporations that I owned. That's it. But 9/11, when 9/11 rolled on, and I don't want to get into the controversies, I'll get into what happened that day as I lived it. Because I was working in that industry. I was a direct frontline support for the stock markets, trade floors, money market. I went around the world and doing a lot of things for the money market. The other side that you, the audience, don't see. Unless you've worked as a stockbroker, and then there's things you know that I can speak about, but you can't. Okay? Because I can speak about it clearly today. But 9/11 rolled around, and the people that lost their life that day broke me. Because not only was I fighting on a day-to-day basis of, here's the information, I'm seeing how the money works, how the corporations work, how the politics have freedom to the access of the information, the true trail of money. That little stock company that you think you're investing in as an example that's got a good name is actually owned by maybe a bigger corporation that's got a darker history. So fighting with this on a day-to-day basis, going to work, seeing the money, hearing the blasphemies on the trade force, no humanity on the trade force, gender, regardless of gender, it's about money. So much so that that's all it is. Okay? Stockbrokers are making millions of dollars a year. They got fancy shoes all over the place. They got fancy clothes, and they can't talk to you about anything else but money. Okay? 9/11, as I said, hit. That's it. Changed my life. Changed my life in a lot of reasons, a lot of ways. Because I hate money. You have no idea how much I hate money. And I don't care if you can say that it's used for good or not. In a world that used to, the ancient ways, the old ways where money did not exist, that was life.
Of course.
This is an obligation. This is a machine. That's the only thing that money is. It's a machine, a monopoly, a manipulative structure to turn around and turn us into addictive characters. And we're addicted to money. Look at what you buy. Okay, look at what you buy and you say, oh, that makes me feel good. Oh, okay, I bought a brand new car. Oh, wow. Okay, it makes me feel good. I brought a home. I bought this. I bought that. I bought this. You know what? You're feeding the machine. We are feeding the elitists' pocketbooks. That's it. We are a commodity.
But it's a necessary evil that we've had to function within. And what it should have given us at this point in time is an understanding of where it's most required and beneficial and how it's best to be used and served to construct the fabric of the new. Because as that is allowing it to be happening, we are dipping the foot in the pond as the pond is about to have the plug pulled from it. So not everybody in the element of that is being driven by money is evil. Not everybody knows what it has done to them and what it has stopped them from having in regards to the other things that they just don't think of. But like, I dislike money. I don't like to say I hate anything because it comes back. But wherever there's creation, there is a train, a ray, a river of money, and money is a vibration, and it's shifting the culture to establish where it has been ignorant in regards to what it allowed to happen that shouldn't have happened, but needed to happen in hindsight. So then as a collective, we can see that it's really not the way that we do things. So the opportunity of mistakes happening and then being seen for what it is the language that needs to change. It's the consistency of, no, that's not acceptable. We do not, as the human species, consider that that is fair to those or to that. And it's equal, equality. It is going further than the established element of what we perceive as the requirement for us to do. We've never questioned that. We're now questioning that. Governments all over the world are being questioned for what they do. Media is being questioned.
They should be.
Exactly. And it's all meant to happen. You've got to have, okay, let me say something, Gary, and then you can say this. Every person that has partaken in this, okay, in this experiment, that has forced the hand to make it work, they all walk the walk of shame in front of us, okay? Or if it's not physically in front of us in a parade, it is within the soul content of what we hold as energy. And they are persecuted for what they do. From an energetic perspective, everything is changing. The forgivenesses of what we have, the acceptance of what we need to commit to appreciate how the strength of saying it's okay that happened, because now we are able to change and we will not have that happen anymore, is the consideration that we need to take as a global entity. Because there is so many muddy waters that have been created by this organization, this system, that we will go and spend the next 40 years trying to repair. But if we create the baseline that everything that has been constructed can be repaired if it is true to what we are, with the balancing of everyone in humanity, then the consistency of breaking boundaries that have been there formerly can be repaired as they're discussed. But it needs to say that, okay, everything's a complete fuck up. We're only going to take the aftermath of low-hanging fruit that is available to create within this new. How many people, Gary, are around the planet that are talking to this level?
No, Adrian, I don't know if I can answer that, because I haven't come across a lot of people, to be honest with you. I've come across a lot of talk about, all sorts of far-fetched stories, all sorts of, belief structures that take us away from the truth of everything. Okay, but to talk about the reality and talk about the truth of the moments, to talk about the, being genuine and authentic, and, open our eyes wide to see what is really that we have on our hands. I don't think I can name anybody right now at the moment, to be honest with you, other than what I speak with you and a couple of others that I've had some lives with. That
it's definitely slim pickings. But in regards to the people that have considered the atrocities in which they're now facing and decided to change, how many do you think is in that?
Repeat that question, because I got to think about that one really closely.
So all of those now that are in that space that would claim that they're the 99%, that this is that, the active people that are stepping aside and putting themselves into whatever category it may be, but those that are saying that, no, they're doing this and this and this and this and this, how many do you think there is worldwide?
Out of the global population, I'd be probably pretty generous in saying probably 5%.
So 5% of let's keep it normal, let's say 7 billion, with 7 billion people. So if we say 7 billion people, 10% of 7 billion is what? 700 million?
700 million people.
So then
that's pretty fucking generous.
Okay, so then you got 10%. So then we say that's what, 350 million people. So 350 million people that were actively considering a change and a movement of change. If they were all to subscribe $100 of whatever currency, how much is that then? That's $3.5 billion.
Yeah, phenomenal.
$3.5 billion. How the fuck can you not write a new fabric? You can take on education, you can take on healthcare, you can take on everything as the absolute for the people. Then you start to play the game that everybody's talking about and wants so eager to happen, but there's nobody coming forward with a plan to do that without walking down the street with a sign on their fucking face.
That's the collective. If you take that movement and that percentage point, and we're to look at that, that's the collective that turns around and does the change. Because with that, if you want to address it in the sense of what everybody understands, that becomes just basically okay, let's call it maybe this way. It becomes another political party. But this time it's a political party that is a political party of the world.
No, it's not a political party.
No, I'm just, for the ones out there that won't understand. Party.
Yeah, I know. If it needs to be anything, it is an investigative task force that is going against acts of humanity.
Oh, now we're talking.
And we will put the necessary components in place so there will not be the suffrage to our lesser life-living partners, specimens, humans, children, unfortunate, disabled, and we will nurture that space through the healthcare of what we know is acceptable because of the etiquette of family.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It's not hard. It's not hard. It's not hard. They'll let you register all of these organizations, but it's making the change to be accepted. Yeah. And even if you do put that $100 subscription or one-off payment in to make $3.5 billion, you're a shareholder within that. You have a 0.1%, whatever that may be, whatever tickles your fancy, because it is only to accumulate an allotment of funds necessary to play the big game, rather than stand there feeling inadequate with being able to get angry and talk about what they're doing. Make the changes that we all imagine in this new place by manifesting it by those that have already walked the path for silence and extended that this is how we can disrupt it and create all of those new genuine spaces. This is the change that we are all wanting. Nobody is considering how easy it is. And this is copyright. You can't take this, okay? Because this is peace architecture 101, the audience that might pertain to thinking, oh, yeah, let's just do that. Because it won't work, because there's no genuine spirit, because of what you've got. Still fighting an angry fight.
Yeah.
That won't be tolerated. That won't be tolerated. The acceptance of everything as being flawed, to then pick the genuine and bring it forward, is an art within itself. And if you have not done that within you, you have no chance of operating it within a business identity. So don't think that you can instigate some crowdfunding to instigate this motivation, because this is out. And this is why we're here today, to talk about this.
So this is, you know, how many beautiful ideas in the world have been picked off, but somebody throws it into something else and then destroys what was a beautiful idea. Okay. You know, the intent behind anything is everything. And in a world where we need this, you know, I haven't even got the right word for it at the moment, other than unity. That's the thing. And if this was to bring it together in unity to create a new world, in a sense, where people can feel safe and secure, where people can feel that they're looked after, where people can feel that they can be free with freedom of choice, freedom to live, freedom to breathe, eat rightly, good foods, not all the stuff that we're being accustomed to. Okay, the only way that you can even do that is with the heart. And if you don't have the heart, no matter what you have up here in your intellect, it's not going to work. It's not going to work, because you're doing it for greed. And that's not what it's about.
That's exactly it.
And time and time again, we've seen this happen with beautiful things and beautiful ideas and beautiful concepts. Is that this manipulative greed that sits in. And that is what needs to shift out. In fact, these are things that we don't really look at in depth. We look at the medias for the majority of things. We look at what's going on in the world. We look at the governments. We're looking at the V thing. We're looking at the M thing. We're, the world wars that are going on, and there's children dying everywhere. Okay. And just it's getting to a point where it's not about striking the narrative and striking the truth of it. It's like, here's the truth. Now here's the actions. What do we do? Okay, how do we move forward? Get that smile going, get that uplifting spirit going. And if it means shedding off your relationships that are not in sync with where your heart is, then these are all personal choices that have to be made. And sometimes it can become right down to between the mother and child. The mother may be faced with a situation where the child is now an adult and is now having their own life. But their own life is taken off a toxic narrative. And the mother has got to make a choice. She's done everything. She's been there, but it's still not working. And this is where the resources are required in order to help somebody else get back on the path of self-healing. And those are the resources that don't exist. We think they do. Here's the mental health system, and here's this system, here's the medical system, here's the food system. It's all going to take care of you. It ain't taking care of shit. Okay, it's manipulating all of us throughout the whole thing. And Tricia, you made a good point. Seed collecting. And Mary, you talked about something that goes way back to the old ways. The barter system. There are communities around the world, small knit communities that have set this up again. It's a community based where no money exists. It's an exchange of services, it's an exchange of a barter system. Everybody has got equal food, everybody's got equal space, and they have freedom to gather and be in love and, do the work that they need to do. In fact, the amount of stress in those type of communities has gone down to almost non-existent because there is no stress of worrying about paying for bills or medical costs or food, because everything is now an exchange based upon fair, equivalent work, regardless of the gender. Everybody has come together in a purpose, and everybody's come together in building a new, beautiful structure. Okay, and we can't deny that that isn't what it used to be. The only difference of what it was in the old ways, in the ancient ways, is that, well, they didn't have toilet paper. We have toilet paper today because of some other philosophies that came into effect. But in many parts of the world, they don't use that. They use water, they use the resources. So there's a multitude of ways to bring forward a better community structure. And part of what Adrian was talking about is an example. To make change is to develop a model that requires, in today's normal structure, because money exists, well, then we have to play the game until there's a time when it no longer is required. And I do believe that that will happen eventually, when we finally realize exactly what it's doing to the whole world and the greed that it's done. And we've weeded out the corruption and the evilness and all of that and let go of all of that story. There is a point in time that we will see that exact model of the Garden of Eden, if you want to call it. If you want to go based upon a mythical term, a magical term. But we have the capacity to do this now by reaching out to people, by helping you to see and grow more and within your heart, empowerment. It's not just about love. It's about empowerment, not as ego, but empowerment as a people's, and the power of what that can do. And coming back to what I did last night with a number of people that came together and gathered and helped heal each other, even unknowingly, with no words and no looking, that just an exchange of energies that was allowed to be in a process. And this is part of the beauty about being a human being, is that we have the capacity to do this. We have the capacity to grow our own foods. We have the capacity to build our own structures and many things if we come back to simplicity. But the technology's really fucked that up. Okay, because without technology, there's a majority of people out there don't even know how to use a hammer. Okay, because they haven't got the manual dexterity. They'll be looking like, well, where's the text keyboard input? You know, do I program the hammer to turn around and do something? That's a little bit of a facetious side of the story, but you know, it is what it is.
And that goes back to what I was saying, the evolution of man. Yeah. Those things that were taught by every father, every grandfather, every uncle, like fell off the wayside because it was not important to be able to have that as a fundamental skill. And all of that attachment will come back, has come back, is coming back. Mary, I believe, said that it will one day eventually happen. The belief of someday eventually, yeah, it will change the day that your beliefs want, the day that your belief system says no more, and it's changing. I have changed. I no longer accept that. Do I need to talk about it because I don't accept it? No, I just don't even need to acknowledge it and get on my path, on my journey, because the more that you calibrate you, the more that you will see the symbolic reason why this is happening to you and nobody else. It is for you to educate them, to teach, to inspire as they fall over, stumble, pick themselves up, filled with anger, filled with hatred, filled with contempt upon themselves. It is only to inspire them to see the beauty in which they always present with, apart from the moment of now. The acceptance of the flaws in which we had to go through, don't need to carry that. The names in which people called you, forget about it. The people that violated you, that is difficult, but it's happened. The trauma in which you created while you were overseas defending country, and fear and actually intimidating fear into others, as then you found out what you were perpetrating was false and delusional to a corporation that really didn't care whether or not you arrived or departed. It's okay.
I like what Trisha had just said. Sam, can you just put up that post by Trisha, please? Taffy says, to heal brokenness, you have to share love heals, trying to do what you can do to help others. Full-heartedly agree, Taffy. Keep it going. Okay. The more we lend a helping hand to people, the more that they're going to follow and seeing that this is what it is. Okay. And Trisha says that she had to, I just had an opinion, not to acknowledge all that has been happening. Wow, thank you. Okay, well, she just had a moment of enlightenment. Go back to
Good girl.
Okay.
Good girl.
Good girl. And then she's saying, I just spoke to a friend about this earlier, and it's a yes from the creator. Gather, teach, so this change is going to prosper.
Yeah, of course.
Well, welcome to the Heartfire Chronicles and the Peace Architects, and you know.
Yeah. This is the reality of what is happening. They can't stop this from happening. We are only able to provide the necessary platforms for people to find it within its truest element, without it being tainted. Without it being tainted by corporation and diluted by motivational speakers that want you to prioritize where your fixation and your focus is to an agenda of finances and money. In the spiritual well-being that is necessary, it is just okay to say, I'm broken. I'm confused. I'm so scared. I don't know where to turn. What is happening within this whole world? I thought I had my shit together. Oh my God, I didn't even know I was still holding on to that stuff. Wow, there's so much pain out there with so many different people. What about me? It's okay, okay? Because everything that you speak in the silence is heard. Every person that has ever passed away that you have ever loved in this lifetime still remains within this vibration. They surround you with the loving notion that is all that is creation. You've got to have the belief within this space. Take the labels in which you're self-imposing upon self and stop that restriction. Let it all go, because you do not have to be anything to arrive where you need to be. You just simply need to be there. The rest will fall into place.
Beautifully said, my friend. Beautifully said. You know, one of the most beautiful things about reaching out and teaching, and it's not to be the teacher, okay? And this is, I throw this at people sometimes. They say, well, Gary, you're a great teacher. I says, no, I'm not. All I'm doing is curating a path for you to see that you are your own teacher. You are your own guru. You are your own healer. I am not the healer. I am not the teacher. I am not the guru. You are your own. You're the teacher of self. When you start to accept that. Okay, you said a feeling such exhaustion is, yeah, it is, Jackie. It definitely is. Okay, there is a lot of exhaustion, the present energy going on around everywhere. To those of you that are empaths and very, very sensitive to energy, brace yourself. Please take the time to relax. Find a way to relax. Find a way to boost your resources. You know, go and do a little bit of solitude, do some meditation, drink well, sleep well, and eat well, because there's a lot of energy coming forward. We haven't seen anything yet. Okay, and it's not to promote fear and panic. It's all to let you know is that it's happening for a reason, and it's going to be better. Believe me, it is going to be better in the outcome. But you need to be
better.
Yeah.
It is better. Just stop seeing the other things. Okay? See the lighter side of things. Take the contempt out of it and put the exaggeration of idiocy into it. And then be entertained by it. And Jackie, you're so very loved. You know that. We're all feeling exhausted now, because the vibration is being so inundated with fear that our own resilience is finding it so strenuous to remain within that constance. Allow that constance to just be at the paramount. The word constance will automatically bring you into alignment of the moment, because you have already navigated that within your own narrative. So allow that constance to appreciate the moment that is now. Take the breath. You don't have to be doing anything, sweetheart. Nobody has to be doing anything at this point in time.
Trisha just said something that, you know, Trish, you're absolutely right. Okay, to everybody that's listening out there, you just let me say this. If you focus only on the bad, then you are going to lose your energy. You're going to lower your vibrations, and you know what? You're going to fall into a dark hole. You truly are. You're gonna, you know, you're not going to even feel good about yourself. You might even make yourself physically ill, because you are knowing nothing but focusing on the negative narration. Look, be aware of it. Yes. Okay. We're aware of it. We're aware of forced V's. We're aware of all of the stuff that's going on. But awareness is not focus. Use awareness rightly. You know what's wrong. Your heart is telling you what's wrong. So what are you going to do about it so that it's not going to make you negative? There's an old phrase, optimism. The more you are optimistic, the more you remain optimistic, the more that good things and good people will be attracted to you. And if you don't believe me, I invite you to try it for the next 7 days. Force yourself to be optimistic about everything. Force yourself to smile at yourself. Force yourself to look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm a magnificent human being that is perfectly imperfect, living in a perfectly imperfect world. Repeat that. I am a magnificent human being that is a perfectly imperfect human being living in a perfectly imperfect world. Stay optimistic. Do that for 7 days and then come back to me and tell me that you haven't shifted. I'll guarantee you shift. I'll guarantee that you'll see better things happening to you. It might be just little things. You know what? It could be a butterfly that lands on your nose and just tickles the end of your nose. Guess what? It's a good thing.
It's funny. Is it Taffy that asked that or said that she's been focusing on the negative energy? Was it Taffy that said that?
No, that was
was it Trisha?
Hold on a minute. Trisha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trisha.
And you know, it's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy. My God, it look like if it was easy, man, the whole world would have shifted by now. It's not. Okay. Because
it is. It fucking
wait. Yeah, but Adrian, for many, it's for you and I, we can understand that. But for many people, it's not the case.
They're refusing, Gary. They're refusing.
Okay, here's an example, Adrian. There's a lady in Pakistan that was raped by 400 men in the public. Yeah. Tell me how she's going to shift away from that negative trauma easily.
It's going to take. Fault.
It's not her fault. It's not her fault, but my God, the trauma that's set in, that's going to take some time.
The trauma is also a story. It's also an idea that gets compounded and compounded every time it's told.
But that is where people like you and I and other true light workers come in, because we help them transition. We help them go beyond the trauma with time. I wish it was magically like boom. Well,
it can be. If you have a belief that your moment is to accept everything that has happened right now, not go on anymore, right now. Okay. And then find a chant that is so deep with you that you feel with it, or ring me personally and I'll do a chant with you over the phone. And then we'll go down that pathway of you walking away from everything that has ever been labeled at you, by you, and remain in a space of freely giving it all up to arrive in the innocence with the scars that you willingly leave behind. You wear them, but you don't wear the luggage no more. It means jack shit. It means nothing. And then you are able to heal genuinely, because the forgiveness truly needs to come from you to the younger version of you. Now, in the circumstance where a young girl's raped by 400 guys in the street, the forgiveness still applies in the same consistency. Not that it's her fault, but it's the forgiveness that she's asking for, so she's feeling whole again, because something was taken away. The innocence, the dignity, all of those things have been stripped away, but we can only ever put it into one version that we know of self. So let's appreciate that one genuine, innocent person is your 6-year-old identity or 4-year-old, and it's unique to you. And what you do is you ask forgiveness, because you fucked that little child so many times without even anybody else doing it, because you refused to allow that to be at the forefront, because it was always intimidated. It wasn't accepted. So we've got to forgive those things. I was exactly in the same space of never consciously giving myself, the innocent child of myself, the version of it being at the forefront. And that is where all the wisdom arrived from. Everything else that we compiled through the journey, where we were ignorant of the young self, was just an exploitation of ourselves. Nothing genuine, always trying to fit in, do what we had to survive, to succeed. Whilst the younger version that we never ever spoke to was sitting back going, just talk to me. I'll forgive you. There's really nothing to forgive, but it's a process. That's all that it is. Then the rest of the debacle dissipates. Believe me, because that is why this whole thing is happening. This whole reason of acceptance and forgiveness can be all compiled into one breath. When you acknowledge that your belief system is currently being tested every day by those that are creating the beliefs. Walk away. The best thing you can do for yourself. Don't look at who did what and what they did and when they did it. Worry about where you are and what you are doing, that your vibration is the truest of you, that it doesn't speak ill of others. It doesn't condemn the lesser. It does not judge in any way. It gives an understanding and a rational conclusion to where you have found yourself. And the more that you master that, the better you are.
It's a good thing I got a backup phone. Hold on a second here. Okay. Out here, and I haven't got anything. I'm not close to where the electrical sockets are. Ouch. Just a second here. I got both devices are about really to turn around and just end. So maybe that's a sign for it. Okay. And almost turned around and sat a little too hard on that rock, which was abrupt. I missed part of the conversation. I do apologize for that. But
no need to apologize. It was just letting people know that everything that they're looking for, they just have to believe that, and belief with patience that it'll arrive when it decides to, and it'll arrive when you center perfectly. The journey doesn't want you to get off your ass and run around and create all of this wealth and sustainability. It wants you to acknowledge that all of that understanding is lesser of you now. And you are able to step away with knowledge that you never, ever even used in practical, to then evolve to the consistency of what is the expectation in the new, the doorway of opportunity that has arisen. That's all.
Well, I think, yeah, internet connection is really bad out here. Okay. Whatever's going on with the technology tonight is just driving me batty. Okay. So let's sort of end that where we are right now. Leave it like this for people to think about a little bit more about what we've talked about tonight. And when we come back next Saturday, okay, or next Sunday, I'd like everybody in the audience. We asked last week, like, come by with your questions, come by with your concerns, come by with a lot of things. We'd like you to step it up a little bit. Okay. Bring us your questions, your concerns, you want to talk, you need somebody to talk to in person, send us a message. Okay. And we'll give you our best hindsights that we can. We do this each and every week. And I do a lot of my lives each and every week to show that, yes, love and faith and hope, that's really about what it's all about. And that's what we have to hold on to. If we don't hold on to that, what's the other side of it? I think we can all see what the other side of it's going to be. So in that case, last words for tonight, Adrian.
Every day the sun gets up. Every day the sun sets. It does the same thing every day, and it never affects anybody. It brings life to everything that it touches. If you resemble anything moving forward, resemble the sun. Not to burn, not to create dehydration, but to remain consistency of life, to remain consistent of life in the representation of joy and love that you can find from the deep valley in which you are asking that question of. Everything else falls into place, believe me.
I think that's all that needs to be said, because it all falls into place. If you're going through struggles, embrace them. Don't run away from them. Embrace them. And if they're still too hard for you, reach out to us. Leave a comment. Tag us on social media. This is the one point that we can say technology is helpful. And we'll offer whatever. We won't tell you what to do. We'll listen and let you know that you're not alone. You're definitely not alone throughout all of this. And the best thing you can do is, like we both of us try and say, keep that smile going. Lift up, smile at yourself. Drop the shadows. Truly smile at yourself, because you got this. No matter how hard it may be, you got this. You've come this far. You think it can get any worse? On that note, let's leave it there. And we'll see you next Saturday for a little bit more of rant and rave from Australia to Canada. So from the North Pole to the South Pole, we've got it almost covered.
Splitting the sea and allowing the vibration to be felt.
Definitely.
Love each and every one
Okay.
of you.
Good night, everybody. Namaste.
Yeah.
A bientôt.